The VNL-1779 M-Holder Replacement Guide. Thank you for purchasing this Laserdisc part and doing your part to keep electronics out of the landfill by repairing instead of replacing. Please do not undertake the repair of your Laserdisc player if you're not comfortable with the associated risks to the player and yourself. As electronics age, many of their internal components that are made out of plastic can become brittle and break when serviced, causing further damage. There are many precision alignment points that are set at the factory and can easily become misaligned if care is not taken. Also, anytime you take the cover off of any electronic device and the device remains plugged in, there is the risk of electric shock or fire if you touch electrical contacts or drop a screw and short out connections. By using this part and undertaking a repair yourself, you agree that the supplier of the replacement parts is not liable for any bodily injury or damage to the device or property sustained while attempting the repair. If you are not comfortable with these terms, please seek the assistance of a qualified electronics repair technician in your area. For this repair, you will need the replacement M-holder, a standard-sized Phillips head screwdriver, a medium-sized flathead screwdriver, and a small precision Phillips head screwdriver. First, with the player plugged into the mains power, turn the unit on and eject the tray. Next, completely disconnect the power so that the tray remains open for the rest of the repair. With the power disconnected, remove the screws that hold the top cover on. There are usually 2 screws on each side of the player and 3 on the back. Gently slide off the top case and set it aside. Remove the 4 screws that hold on the upper disc clamp cross brace. With the cross brace removed, you will notice a shiny, polished metal rod that guides the optics assembly as the disc is read. Using the medium-sized flathead screwdriver, gently pry the end of the polished rod nearest the front of the player up and out of the black plastic retaining clip. Please note that this clip can become brittle with age, so be gentle and do not use excessive force. We now need to remove the optics assembly and the guide rod from the player. Please be careful when handling the optics assembly. The laser lens is very easily damaged, and there are adjustment points set at the factory that, if inadvertently changed, may render the player unable to properly read the disc. Handle only the metal chassis of the assembly to avoid damaging the optics and adjustment points. Carefully move the guide rod and optics assembly toward the front of the player, disengaging it from the rear indexing pin. We'll get a closer look at the indexing pin in a later step. Being careful not to hit the optics on the upper carriage assembly, move the optics assembly and guide rod out into the open area to the right of the player as viewed from the front. The optics assembly is tethered to the circuitry by a ribbon cable, so go slow and do not stress the cable. Cradle the optics assembly in the palm of your hand and use the edge of the flathead screwdriver to carefully and gently pry up the black tabs on either end of the ribbon cable retaining clip to release the cable. Once released, remove the cable, which will free the optics assembly to be completely removed from the player. Working on a clean, flat surface, use the precision Phillips screwdriver to remove 4 screws from the old M-holder. There are 2 coarse threaded screws that connect the M-holder to the metal chassis of the optics assembly, and 2 fine threaded screws that connect the drive motor to the M-holder. With the 4 screws removed, gently release the old M-holder from the optics assembly. It may be helpful to give it a wiggle to unseat it. Take note, once unfastened from the M-holder, the drive motor is attached to the optics block only by a fragile ribbon cable, so take care not to put strain on the cable as it is easily damaged. Remove the 2 white nylon drive gears from the old M holder and transfer them to the new M holder. Check that they move smoothly. If there is any resistance, inspect the teeth of the gears for any dust or debris. To install the new M holder onto the optics assembly, first, seat the M holder onto the drive motor, again, taking care not to damage the drive motor's ribbon cable, and then fit the M holder onto the metal chassis of the optics assembly. Before proceeding, double check that the M holder is sitting snugly on the metal chassis and there is no gap between the chassis and the M holder. If there is a gap, the M holder may become misaligned when reinstalling the screws. Now, reinstall the screws. First, the fine threaded screws for the drive motor. Then the coarse threaded ones for the metal chassis. Do not over-tighten the screws. With the screws reinstalled, use your finger to turn the worm gear to verify that the drive gears are engaging properly. The optics assembly is now ready to go back into the player. Gently pull up on the black ribbon cable retaining clip. Carefully reinstall the ribbon cable and push down on the plastic connector. Pushing down on the connector will seat the retaining clip. As before, take care not to hit the optics on the upper carriage when reinstalling the optics assembly. To reinstall the optics assembly, first, slip the end of the guide rod onto the black plastic indexing pin. The guide rod should have stayed installed in the optics assembly during this repair, but if for some reason it was removed, please be sure that the chamfered end of the guide rod is facing the back of the player. On the left side of the optics assembly, as viewed from the front of the player, is a small plastic guide pin. This pin needs to go below the metal rail to the left of the area of travel. Now it is safe to secure the guide rod by pressing it into the plastic retaining clip. As before, use gentle pressure to avoid breaking the clip. From here, simply reverse the steps of the disassembly to complete the repair. Replace the upper disc clamp cross brace and its 4 screws. Slide the top cover back onto the player. Take note that there are metal tabs that need to slip into the player's face frame. Replace the top cover screws, 2 on each side and 3 on the back. Plug the player back in and close the tray. Congratulations! The repair is complete.